So today we're going to take a look at two very similar shoe styles with a slightly different construction method on two really interesting Tier 4 shoes. Now the first thing you'll notice is both of these are suede, but the Cru Nonpareil is a calf suede and the Fugashin is a kudu suede. So a little bit difference there. And in this section, we're going to talk about the quality of the material in the upper, and I'm combining the upper outer with the upper inner piece, which is the lining of the shoe in this section. So as we look at this, first of all, this is suede. Suede is really divided into a couple different categories. The highest quality suede is like a reverse suede, or a Janus suede, in which the leather is actually not split. And if you look at here and just the thickness of the suede here, as well as the feel to the suede, you can tell that this is in fact split. And if you look at the kudu, and it's especially clear on the kudu because the kudu is very thin, that is also split. So that is just another piece there for looking at it. Now, when you look at the lining of the shoes, this is clearly a veg tan leather. It feels kind of like an outer, an upper for the shoe. And when you put your hand on the inside, it is all the way through the shoe, as you'd expect. It does have a suede heel to help with slip. But the leather here is an absorbent veg tanned leather. Now, when we're looking at this one, it also has the suede for the heel slip. The lining on this is very thick, and it is orange, which is kind of cool. I actually like the orange. Okay, to see that. And it is, I'm not sure if it's a veg tanned leather, but it does not feel as absorbent as the Fugashin. Now, the Fugashin is very thin and feels very absorbent. So as this particular shoe battle goes, I would give points to the Fugashin for the lining. For the actual upper leather, I feel like the Cru Nonpareil is a softer suede. Even though this is kudu, it is just, it doesn't hold the, I took a suede brush to this to try to clean it up, and it's still, it's pretty piley, a little messy, and just not as high a quality piece of suede as the other one. So I really feel like when they split this suede, and they did that in the factory, they just did not do a very good job with it. Where here, I think this is suede that was split probably at the tannery, not in the shoe factory, and is just a higher grade of suede. So just my my personal opinion on that. So like the lining on the Fugashin better, like the suede on the Cru Nonpareil a bit better. Now, as we look at this, one of the things that we wanted to check out was the stitch density on the upper. And, it's hard to do because the stitching is really hard to see, but I guess this is more of a decorative stitch, so I'm not going to use that. I could use the stitching here as it attaches this piece, or I could use the stitching up here at the top line. I think I'm going to use the top line just because it's easy to see. And as we look at it, and I like to use centimeters because the European viewers are not going to be familiar with stitches per inch, since America is the only country that uses inches. Outside of the shoe industry, for some reason, still uses stitches per inch. But just to make it a little bit more accessible to everybody, we're going to use centimeters. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 stitches per centimeter on the upper here. And here on this one, looking at it, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stitches per centimeter on the Fugashin. So a little bit more on the Fugashin than on the Cru Nonpareil. Not dramatic. Now this has double stitching on the heel. This has double stitching on the heel as well. You can see that the heel shapes are a little bit different. You can also see that this has a rounded heel and has the stitch on the side, where this one has the stitch in the middle. You can also see that the heel counter on this has a big hole kind of here, which is weird. It's not very firm. It's very soft. Here, you know, that heel counter is very stiff. Now, I can't tell whether it's plastic or leather. This feels more like it's leather, and this feels more like it's that papery plastic stuff. And a lot of people will say that, you know, that's it. That's the end. But I still think that, you know, for a tier 4 shoe, there's more to the story than just the counter material. And so want to look at that as well. The other piece that I think is important to note is the toe. This is a skin stitch reverse toe on the Fugashin, which is very, very difficult for shoemakers to do. This is just a plain reverse stitch. And then this joining here and this joining here are very similar in look, although you can see this actually made an attempt to have that rail stitch there going with the lines at each stitch, where this one did not at all. So I would say this is a hand stitched and this is machine, but they're both pretty well done and not so great as to call out anything else. Now, from a design perspective, this is a 4-eye and this is a 5-eye. So that is a fairly significant difference, which is why the vamp on this one is a little bit longer. So the facings are shorter because they have less laces to go through. So another small design change, kind of like this one being wrapped around before the heel cap is, and the heel caps being different. So that is the upper stitch density discussion. Now, both of these are a flat Goodyear welt. And so the welt is attached to the, in this case, to the sole, you know, and then on the inside is attached to gemming, which is glued to the insole. And so this is a flat welt. And again, if you look here, this actually has a double sole, and then it has the welt, but it is also a flat welt that is attached. And here it has a narrower waist, so you can see it's thicker here, and it thins out in the waist. You can still see the midsole there. So both Goodyear welted and both with a flat welt. Now, when it comes to welt quality, one of the things that you really look for is you look for the join where the welt is wrapped around, because it is one piece of leather that goes all the way around the shoe. Now, you don't really want to be able to see it, but on a lot of shoes, you know, particularly like an Allen Edmonds, you can. Here you can see it, it's right there, and it is pretty clean. Not a significant seam there at all. When you look at it on the Fugashin, it's the same. You can see there's just this little itty bitty notch right there. Let me make sure that that's in focus. And that is the notch for the welt. Again, not terrible. These are both 270s, you know, they are thin and they're not a wraparound 360. So that means that there would be a seam. It looks like the welt goes all the way around though, which is weird. I don't really know why it does that. So anyway, that is the welt quality. All right, so here we have a welt, and this is, or excuse me, the insole. And if you look down by the toe here, you can see there's some nail holes here from, looks like from lasting all the way in there. but it's a it is a partial sock liner and then a partial leather insole right over that line edge. See, they're similar colors, but that is the way that Fugashin did it. Now, the Cru, this is, sorry, I'm gonna get the light behind it. This has a sock liner that's the whole length of the shoe, but the sock liner is not a perfect fit. So it goes up along the edges, all the way around the inner side of the shoe, and then is a good fit on the outside. So you can't see anything underneath, which can cover a lot of bad things, but it also doesn't allow you to see any of the good ones. So that is another difference here. You know, you would probably consider the Fugashin to be a little bit higher quality just because this insole covers everything up. Now, I have some very high quality shoes that have full-length insoles. So, you know, I don't want to say that is a dead giveaway, but on a lower quality shoe, anything that's covered up, especially that's not covered up cleanly, does provide a little bit of a reason for suspect. All right, so now we're going to talk about the sole. And this is really about sole quality. What is the quality of the leather that's being used on the sole? And that's really something that you look at from wear. And both of these have a very small amount of wear, but have some. And I'm going to say at this point that they're too close to call, right? Neither of them are JR soles. They're not, you know, double oak bark tanned or, you know, like an Edward Green sole that is multiple different types of oak bark. But it is a, they are seemingly high quality leather soles. They both were painted, which we'll get into when we talk about sole finishing. But they are seeming to hold up relatively well. Now, when you look at sole stitch density, because they are blind stitched, meaning that their flap was raised around here before the stitching machine was used, it's difficult to see sole density on the bottom, so you have to look on the top. So we're going to look here. Sorry. Helps if I don't knock this tripod aside while I'm doing this. So as we look, we'll just do it here. It is a solid two and a half stitches per centimeter on the Cru Nonpareil, and on the Fugashin, it is also a solid 2.5. So the sole stitch density is exactly the same on both of them. So the next section is about edge finishing, and this is a difficult one to really talk about completely, but I want to spend some time with it. The edge quality is really determined based on how well the edge is put together. So if you see pieces of the edge that are like the sole is split or not coming together right, or you see like a gap in between the layers, that would be something, especially around the heel, you'll see that sometimes. But in this case, you have pretty good edge all the way around. It is sanded, right? And the quality of the edge is fine, and the quality on the heel is just fine. As we look here, the same thing. Now this has a natural, which is what I asked for, a clear edge, and this one of course is painted. But that is a decision that I made in ordering the shoe, not a decision that the shoemaker did, or an indication of quality. So now we're going to talk about finishing. In Goodyear welted shoes, a lot of times what will happen is that they run it through a bunch of different finishing devices so that there's a ledge at the bottom, a ledge at the top, and kind of this groove cut in. and this is not done. This is also has a beveled edge at the waist, which is something that you'll find on higher end shoes. The stack on the heel stack is actually really pretty, and it looks like it was done pretty well. This could be a prefabricated heel block, but it is a full leather block, not particle board. At least it appears that way. And again, this beveled edge here and this sanded edge here is pretty well done. So nice looking edge on the Fugashin. When you look at the Cru, this is a double sole. It has this beautiful tapered piece where it actually sands it down on the waist, but it's not beveled, it's straight. So that is, you know, the same finish as the front. And then this heel block, if you look at the heel block carefully, you can't really tell that this is multiple layers of leather. It does look like a particle board heel block. So that would be a serious knockdown for the Cru Nonpareil. Now from a sole and heel finishing, they have this beautiful fiddleback waist on here. It's not like the fiddle here is not really that sharp. It's more of a beveled waist. They didn't finish by doing two-tone paint in order to separate the flat part with the waist. The heel block is painted, which is nice. The rubber heel part is huge on this, and you know, it's actually colored green, which is a choice that I made when I customized the shoe. So I like the finishing on this, but it's not as technically advanced as some others. And if you look at the Fugashin, the fiddleback has a little bit more definition, mostly because of the paint, right? They painted it to make it look more like a fiddleback, but this is not a very narrow waist, and it's not an extreme fiddle. As a matter of fact, the bevel is higher on the Cru than it is on the Fugashin, but the Fugashin sole admittedly looks a little bit better. So as far as sole finishing, I would have to give it to the Fugashin. Now, one of the things that we look at in all of our shoe battles is the welt, and how is the welt finished. Here you can see that there's a really nice fudging done on the welt, 180 degrees. It is not a fine fudge, but it is an interesting fudge. And of course, with the contrasting white stitching, you know, you can really see the stitching. If we did the stitching in a natural color, it would be almost invisible on this because of this fudging. Although the stitching is not as dense as the fudging is still a little bit on the wider side than it is here. Now, if you look at the fudging on the Cru, yeah, that's right. There's no fudging, none at all. So now again, suede shoe, casual. Does it need fudging? No, not necessarily, but comparing the two, more time was taken in finishing, especially on the welt, with the Fugashin. So when we look at toe plate execution, one of the things that we like to do is actually try to, I don't know what happened to my dime there. I just rubbed a dime across it and it does not stop. It is perfectly flush. And then you look at the screw heads themselves, and are they perfectly flush against the shoe? Now, this is really important as far as toe taps go, because if the screws stick out, they can scratch the floor. And if the plate sticks out, it will tap when you walk. So having good execution on the toe plate is absolutely paramount if you're gonna have toe plates on your shoes. And here you can see these are also smooth. It's actually almost a little bit of a depression on this side of the shoe and a little bit smooth on this side. And if I had my dime still, I would show it. But the screws on this are perfectly flush as we look at those. So flush plate, flush screws. So one of the things that we talk about here is patina, and on these, there is no patina because they're suede. Now, that doesn't mean that suede can never have a patina, because it can, but in this particular cases, we just chose the color suedes, and they mixed the colors for us. These are not painted. And when you come in and you look at price to value, the Fugashin, because it was a special order with special leather, listed out at $400, and the Cru Nonpareil was around $367, because I upgraded the sole and did a lot with it. So they're very, very similar in price, within $40 or 10%. And I'm gonna say that the price to value ratio on the two of them is just about the same. This is 10% more, but it has a more difficult stitch pattern and hand stitching in the apron, and a reverse skin stitch in the toe. So that's why I'm gonna say they're the same.